All right, so I am going to do my best to demonstrate some of the things that we talked about in the video. If you remember in the first one, we talked about if you have good posture, you should be able to balance a book on your head and walk around. So I'm going to give it a try. We'll see how it turns out. So I put the book on top of my head here. I'm going to walk around. So the idea being is if you're not able to hold the book on top of your head, then you probably have some postural deficits. Now, I happen to know that I don't have perfect posture, but it's much better than it was several years ago. So that's the book on the head. So go ahead and try that at home. Okay, so the second thing, if you recall, I said that you should go ahead and find a wall. Go back up against a wall, so we want the back of your feet against the wall, we want your seat against the wall, we want your back and your head against the wall. And once you've got that position, walk away from the wall. And if that feels a lot different than your normal posture, again, that's a sign you have some postural deficit. So go ahead and try that. Okay, so the next couple of things we're going to go over here, if I can get away from the light here, is we're going to demonstrate the overhead squat. That's one of the things that we talked about in the third video. That's one of the things that we'll measure to help see how stable your core is. So this is looks like a fairly simple movement, but it's kind of difficult to do. So I'm going to come from the side. We're going to have this PVC pipe overhead. I'm going to try and hold that still. And the idea is to squat down just as if you're sitting. So we're just going to go ahead, sit down, come back up. And the idea is you don't want this bar to move at all. You want it to just stay right overhead the whole way up and down. I'll do it once more from this direction. So you just sit down and then come right back up. So, okay. That's the overhead squat. That's another thing that we measure. All right, the next movement is called the shoulder pass-through. Again, this is a measure of flexibility. It's a pretty simple looking move again, but it's surprising how hard it is for some people. So again, I've got a big piece, a long piece of PVC pipe. I want to lock my elbows out. I don't want my elbows to bend at all. I start from my stomach here, about my belly button level. And I'm going to bring it clear over my head, back over, touch my back, and bring it clear back over, all while keeping my elbows locked. So let's try it once more. Over the head, and back over. That's the shoulder pass-through. That's another thing that we measure. Okay. So next I'm going to try and demonstrate just some general stretches and exercises that you can do on your own at home, as promised. So this first one involves a foam roller, so you don't necessarily have to have a great big long one. You can have a short one, but you'll want to be on your side. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over the ITB, the iliotibial band, and the TFL muscle. So we're just going to go all the way down, clear down to almost the knee. And for some people, this is extremely painful. That's the ITB stretch with the foam roller. And a lot of times when you do that here, you'll be doing it about 30 seconds to a minute, depending on your tolerance. And then you turn around and do it on the left side. So that's your ITB stretch with a foam roller. Okay, the next one I would like to demonstrate is called the shoulder bridge exercise. And this one is fairly simple, but you want to make sure you're doing it correctly. So you're going to be on the floor, lying on your back. You want to keep your knees bent. And you want your arms at the side, head on the floor. The first thing you want to do is push your tummy and your back to the floor. So you want to rotate your pelvis back, lock the back on the floor as close as you can. Then you simply lift up, hold it, then back down. Up again, and back down. And so Oftentimes when we have people do this particular move, we have them do it 10 or 15 times, depending on what Bridget, our mobility specialist, deems the person's able to do. So that is the shoulder bridge exercise. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate a couple more exercises. These exercises are called the XLTs. The reason they are is because when you do the move, they will mimic that particular letter. So let's see, why don't we start with the L's? So the L's you can do, you want your elbows in toward your shoulder, and then you want to go outward and back, so that looks like with your elbow you're making an L. So you're going to do that 10 times, and that's the L's. So the next one are the X's, and the X's you'll be making an X. So you'll be going like that 10 times. And then once you've done that 10 times, you switch sides. And of course, this is done with the stretchy TheraBands, which are very handy tools. These will definitely help increase your range of motion. So those are the X's. And then the T's, you start at about shoulder level, go clear out. And of course, with my arms and body, it looks like I'm making a T. So that's why those are called the T's. And you want to do 10 of those. There are variations of these you can do. You can do T's with one arm 10 times. So there's different ways to do it. But when you come in, again, Bridget would prescribe what she felt that you were able to do to get you started. So, but some of these you can try at home as well. So you need a TheraBand. Those are the XLTs. Okay, as I move back into the picture here, we talked a little bit on toward the end. At some point, I'm pretty sure we talked about if you want to take a minute and just try to assess your own posture, have someone assess it for you, so you could have your wife or husband, your significant other, your kids. So it's easy. It's probably the easiest to evaluate. I'm using Bobby Joe, who's my assistant. She is against the wall here. So the first view, you want to look front to back. What you'll be looking for is to have shoulders even, one shoulder higher than the other, the hip higher than the other. You might have to poke around to find the top of the hip. But you see, check that, see if her feet are rotated, if they're turned in, or if they're naturally turned out. There's a number of things, any tilting, any curvature of the spine, that type of thing. Then I'm going to have Bobby Joe turn to the side. And so what you want to look for here is ideally the head should be right over the shoulder should be over the hip should be over the knee, and the knee should be over the ankle. So those are the kind of things that you look for when you're assessing posture. So that's something maybe you guys can do on your own, and if you have any questions, let us know, and we'll try to give you the feedback. So thank you, and thanks for listening to all this. Appreciate it. Get it? Nope, not quite yet.